So the next film we're going to be talking about is about vampires, and it is a classic from 1985, Fright Night. Now, Daniel, Mr. Fright Night himself, what do you think about this, and what do you know about Fright Night?
So, Fright Night is about vampires, everybody's favorite villain, horror villain. So, vampires are famous on their own. They don't need any introduction. But Fright Night is basically this kid from the suburbs who gets a neighbor, and the neighbor is a vampire, like a Dracula type guy.
Yeah,
And
completely smooth.
so smooth, and he's putting the work on all the ladies and killing ladies in the town and people in the town and turning people, his friends, into vampires and stuff. And so, and he tries to alert the police, tell his girlfriend, all this different type of stuff. And then he, at the end, has to fight this Dracula character who turns his girl into a vampire, and he has to kill the vampire before dawn, because if not, then his girl turns into a vampire,
Yeah.
undead. So it's one of those cool. It was in the 80s, right? I believe.
Yeah, right in the middle.
Yeah. So it was it's one of those movies, has those feels, like The Burbs or something, but
Yeah.
vampire, something like that.
If John Hughes had done something with vampires, it would be close to what this is,
Yeah.
No,
it'd be the same. That's what it would be, right?
Yeah.
It'd be that. So
Really funny idea. Just like, what if a vampire lived right next to you? You have to deal with it, and then this kid is basically being tortured because the vampire starts to move in on his mom, and then he's just freaking out over that. He starts moving in on his girlfriend. He enlists the help of this TV personality who's like, his shtick is a vampire killer on TV, and it's really fun, man. When's the first time you watched this?
when I was a kid. So
Mhm.
I was a kid and I saw it, and it was a good time. I was not scared, but it's like that fun scary, You're
Yeah.
watching and you're like, oh yes, how is he gonna get out of this? No one believes him. No one believes him.
I
Like,
know.
how's he gonna do it? So yeah, it's just real. It's, I don't know. I had a great time, and I rewatched it, and maybe like a few weeks ago. When you told me you were thinking about horror movies, I just
Yeah.
threw on Fright Night because I'm like, why not? Fright Night's awesome. And then you were like, oh, let's talk about Fright Night. I'm like, hey, I just saw it. But yeah, it's timeless. I saw it again. I felt the same way when I saw it the first time. Nothing
Mhm.
changed. I feel the exact same way. I've still had a great time. You're still laughing at what you're supposed to laugh at, like, oh
Yeah.
man, silly, his friend evil, or whatever they call him, who turns into a
I think they
vampire.
call him evil.
Huh?
I think they call him evil.
Yeah, they call him evil, right? Yeah. And so it's you go back and you watch movies, and you're like, oh man, it's not as good as I thought it was gonna be,
Mhm.
And I was kind of scared it was going to be like that, because I remember really liking Fright Night. So I didn't really want to ruin that memory. And I've done that a few times with like other movies. So like, for example, people may not know this movie, but Alan Quatermain and the King Solomon's Mines, or Alan Quatermain and the Lost City of Gold. Those movies I used to watch on repeat on the Betamax. So like, real old. And then, and I remember rewatching it a few years ago, and I was like, oh my god, this is like not trash. Like, how did I sit there, dude? Like, how did
Yeah.
my mind process? I was embarrassed that I would sit there and was like, my mind wasn't like, this is bad. How is that? How was I? No, and not only as a kid was I, this is not bad. This was dope. I was like, this is the dopest stuff I've ever seen. Oh my goodness,
Yeah.
And it was so bad. That with Inframan, also the like Chinese Ultraman, he like Power Ranger, whatever. That I thought was so dope. I went back, I rewatched it, and I was like, oh my god, like, how did my mind not melt? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Understand? But I thought I was gonna get this effect with Fright Night, but no, the same exact feeling that I had when I was a kid and I saw it, and it wasn't nostalgic. It's the movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's a true
Like,
classic.
it's the movie. It's not me being like, oh, that scene. And you know why I know it's not that. It's because I don't remember the scene. So I know it's not that. It's me just watching the film and feeling like I'm sitting in an 80s movie theater and I'm watching it, and I feel the exact same way today. So I don't know. I really like it. It's a timeless classic, how you're saying, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? People are going to be able to watch that 30 years from now and still have a really good, fun time. It's still going to be fun and good, you know?
Yeah, I think a lot of that has to do with just how light it takes everything, even though it
Right,
does get pretty dark and
right,
worries and weird at certain points. I think it
right.
has a really good sense of humor to the point where, like, yeah, people don't believe this kid; they think he's high, and he's just running around
Right,
telling people, "Dude, there's a vampire right next door!" Like he calls the police, he calls the
right.
TV guy, you know, and
Everybody.
everyone, you know, his mom. And somehow it feels way more grounded
Mhm.
because it's not set in that like dramatic setting that we're used to when it comes to vampires.
It's not in Transylvania. It's not
Yeah,
in, yeah, it's in the burbs. Yeah, it's a little more relatable, right? Like you're
yeah,
sitting there and you're like, man, what would I do? Like if no one, this dude, he just moved in. He's just a neighbor. But I've seen him do all this weird stuff, but people are not going to believe me. They're going to think I'm on crack because I'm a high school kid.
yeah,
But, you know, and yeah, you can't excuse it with the time and that they're vampires. But yes, that is the one thing that going back watching it as a kid, I didn't really think about it. But now going back and watching it, seeing a high school kid, like the vampire go for a high school, I mean, she's still a seventh, must be in high
yeah.
school, right? Yeah, but then they show it so crazy, and it gets weird. They,
It does get weird,
he bites her. So
especially with the actor they got. It was Chris Sarandon from
oh, okay,
who's from Princess Bride. He played Humperdinck.
that's right, that's right.
Dude, that dude's awesome.
He's awesome. He's
Yeah,
awesome every time. He kills it every time, every time. And
yeah.
you see it again in Fright Night. He kills it. So
Yeah, he was so different than he wasn't because the only thing I'd seen him, I think I've seen him in and noticed him in was Princess Bride, and he's just such like a coward, and you know, he's like so nonchalant about being the bad guy. Whereas this character that he plays is so he's like reveling in it, you know, like he loves being evil, and you
yeah.
see that at the very end, you know, at the very
Oh
last fight scene.
yeah. He really gets in the groove, and you can see it. I mean, you don't even. It's still kind of mysterious in the first act of the movie, right? And then that you're still kind of just getting to know the character. I like how they take your time to really set up this kid and his life so that you can see it all kind of not fall apart, but then there's stakes, right? You
Yeah,
you don't want these relationships to be messed up, you know, but they take the time to set it up. And again, I'm not trying to say it's a cerebral movie, you know what I mean? It's an 80s flick. But what you're saying about it being grounded, where they can still go almost like Sam Raimi, right? You can still go off the rails, but you still can you teeter because you're keeping that kind of atmosphere, so you can be really dark, but still lighthearted, you
yeah.
know, if that makes sense.
You know, the character, I think Charlie Bartlett, right?
Mhm.
Is that the character's name in the movie, the
The
main
kid,
character?
yes,
Charlie
yeah,
Bartlett.
he's the
He
kid, I believe, yeah.
he reminded me a lot of Billy Peltzer from the Gremlins, you know, in terms
Oh
of his
yes.
story, you know,
Mhm.
where the way, and especially in the way that he deals with you know, the like the threat of the
Yes,
monster, if you will, you know.
yes,
It's so weird because they're such different films, you know, about
right.
such different things, but it's crazy how like they can still connect
Mhm.
thematically, you know, with the character.
Yes.
You know, and do you think that's because of a way that like main characters were written during that time with films like this?
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, that happens just in art in general, in music, in paintings. You know, you'll see a time period where people are writing things a certain way,
Yeah.
and that's why they call them 80s movies, 90s movies, because there is a certain, you can kind of tell. I mean, obviously there's exceptions to the rule, but generally speaking, when you look at an 80s film, there's an 80s type of feel to it. You know,
Yeah.
you're watching an 80s film. When you're watching 70s, you know, there's like a 70s type of feel. When there's a 90s film, you're watching a 90s type of feel movie. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I do think there was a little bit of that, even if it was subconscious. But if you're asking me, like, on paper, do you think that happened? Oh yeah, yeah. I think artists subconsciously, even if they don't want to, mimic things from other
Yeah.
artists of the time. It's just what it is. And also the other thing, especially in movies, that you're kind of limited to what the technology is at the time. So
Mhm.
so everyone's pushing the limits of the movie technology, right? So if we're at this level in the 70s, then everyone's going to make explosions look that way because we're going to use that technology. Oh, in the 80s, now we're using these kind of techniques because we're realizing that's what gets people going.
Yeah.
In the 90s, now we have this. In the 2000s, now we have CGI, but it's very rudimentary, right? And
Yeah.
then now we have these type of films where you can tell the difference between a 2010 film and a film from the early 90s or the mid 90s, or
Yeah.
even early 2000s, you know what I mean? So yeah, definitely. I don't know. I know that these are different variables that I'm talking about, but
Mhm.
all that lends to a certain style of the time that all artists are kind of like. Again, there's exceptions to the rules, either for good or for bad, that people stepping out of that box, but everyone's kind of within the herd of how that art has been progressing at that time. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Absolutely. And it's funny that we're talking about, different generations and the timelessness of Fright Night.
right.
It was remade. Obviously, they
Yeah.
made the
Yeah.
remake of Fright Night with Colin Farrell, Anton Yelchin. Did you watch
Right.
that?
Yes, I saw it one time and I don't remember it that well. I remember liking it though. I remember
Yeah, me
liking
too.
it, but I don't remember the film itself. I think because it just gets eclipsed by the first film.
Yeah.
The first one is the one that stays in my memory. I've seen the second one like once or twice, which is like a good amount of time, and I don't remember it. I don't remember it.
Yeah. I feel the
I
same way.
Yeah, I do remember being like, "Oh, that was pretty good." I do remember having that reaction. I just
Oh
don't
yeah.
remember it. It's not like the Evil Dead, right? Where you have Evil Dead and then they remade it what in 2006 or
2013, I think.
2013. That's
Yeah, so
right.
it
And
was
when
kind of
when
recent.
they but that stays in my memory. That's different. You know what I mean? That remake is like, okay, that remake can stand on its own. I don't feel like or maybe it could. I don't know. I have to give it a rewatch. You know what I mean? But
The
I
Fright
don't
Night.
remember.
See,
Yeah, I don't
well,
for Friday Night. That's right.
I
I
think
don't remember it too well.
I think a big reason why it's probably not, in your head still is because it's so faithful in terms of what happens with the
Hmm.
it's same characters, same
Yeah.
story. Whereas Evil Dead, that remake actually did go with a different direction, different, like they're
Did
not trying to do Ash, in that
right,
movie.
right.
It's about
Right.
something else. I think the main character is going through withdrawals for
Yes.
drugs.
Right.
So
Correct.
it's also kind of in her head,
Hmm.
is it real? Is it not? You know,
Oh,
so the best remakes go in their other direction.
hmm. Hmm.
And I like the Fright Night remake enough. I think the casting is really good.
You carry it. Yeah.
Yeah, Colin Farrell as the vampire makes
Mhm.
sense.
It does. Yeah, that makes sense. He can do it. It makes sense.
Yeah, and Anton Yelkin, Anton
Yeah. Rest
Yelkin.
in peace. Right.
Yeah, the poor guy.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
He I thought he was really good in it.
Yeah. He's good in everything, though. I don't.
Yeah,
I don't. Yeltsin wasn't really. I mean, his catalog wasn't deep, right? I mean, he was a young guy, but
yeah.
if you think about like Odd Thomas, that Star Trek,
The
I
Green
don't think.
Room.
Oh
Yeah.
man, what an underrated. Is that horror? That's like horror thriller, right? Or
Yeah.
what is that? Horror.
It would definitely be a horror, probably more on the thriller aspect, but
Oh,
definitely part of that. Yeah.
dude. So people watching. I mean, people watching like movies, and so they probably have seen Green Room, but like Mandy, Green Room, like these are underrated horror films, that you need to check out, but Green
Yeah,
Room, yeah, I forgot Yeltsin was in that, man, and
it's
that's awesome.
possibly one of his better. I mean, I know it was one of his last performances, but it's that
But it
he
was one
was
of his
great in
better.
it. In it.
It's his best film, I think.
Yeah. I
Probably
mean,
his best film, I think.
yeah. I mean,
He
damn.
was better in that than I mean, he's Odd Thomas, but yeah, that uh yeah, he killed it in Green Room. That movie was crazy. I put it on, I think, thinking like, oh, I'm not gonna, whatever. It's just a movie I don't really have to like. I'm just gonna go to sleep to, or it's like 10 to 12. I had time, so I was like, oh, I'll just put it on.
Yeah. Then
And
you
then
see
I was
this
like,
movie where he's
yeah,
being
and
forced in a crazy situation in a basement. I mean,
oh, it was crazy. And
yeah.
you're watching it and then you don't realize it, but then now you have anxiety. You know what I'm saying? Like you're sitting there and then you're like, oh, like, and you're trying to figure it out. You're trying to like, how am I going to kill these guys? How am I going to get out of this room? What am I going to do? What am I going to do to get them back? You know what I mean? Like, so all this is just
Patrick
like,
Stewart, Picard, with your white supremacist.
You were my favorite.
You were my favorite. Don't treat Chekhov that way. There's a scene in Green Room where the first time he finds the dead body, and he's just in shock, looking down at it like what just happened, and then he just immediately runs out trying to get out of there, and he's screaming his head off.
Oh man, and it was so real. They even have the one guy, you know, that's what I'm always thinking. There's not one guy, not one dude. There's not one dude that did boxing before, that did jujitsu, that did Muay Thai, that did something, wrestling in high school, like some shit to like get them out of this and help them. And then in that movie, there was one guy that was like, well, you know, a little bit. I'm not a freaking master, but I did jujitsu. Oh, what? That's sick. And that makes sense. Jiu-jitsu is a thing. People do it. You know, lots of people do it. And so this guy's like, yeah, I do jiu-jitsu. But I love it. They even show that aspect. He's doing the jiu-jitsu, but they show how jiu-jitsu, you know, like you're attached. So like, let's say I attach you, but now if your homie's going to get me, you know what I'm saying? So it's like they show that aspect of it's very real, very grounded, you know? I don't know.
We need more martial arts within the horror genre, like Stat. Honestly.
Oh yeah.
Stat.
I mean, you need to make a horror movie with the Raid dudes.
Oh, dude, that's not. You know, that's funny. A couple years ago, Angel and I were gonna do a video about fixing Michael Myers because Halloween had come out, and they were doing the same shit over and over again. Put Michael Myers in a situation where they're gonna fight back. Honestly, where a whole crew, like it could be a gang, it could be like veterans or something. I want Michael Myers to go up against the people who will fight back against them.
But see, that's what I'm trying to say. It's not about being a tough guy, right? It's not, for me, when I'm watching those horror movies, the reason why I'm not scared or anything, it's not about being a tough guy. It's just like, you're not even going to give yourself a chance. Yeah. What? Like, you're not going to swing. You're not going to bite. You're not going to like claw and kick and knee. You're not going to do anything. And I feel confident that I would. I mean, I'm not saying I would win. I'd probably lose. But but what else are you going to do other than swing, right? And so you don't get these characters that swing. But sometimes when you know, in the green room, you know, they're trying to figure it out. Or these characters that are like, let me be proactive. That's real. That's real. The human being will be proactive. You know what I mean? Like, that's why those characters work. From Halloween, that the chick Ripley, you know what I mean? These characters work. They're proactive because that's real. People want to feel like whether they win or they lose, they want to feel like they would try. They would try to survive. You know, everyone wants to feel that feeling without being, you know, everybody wants to be a gangster until it's time to do gangster shit. And so you know, but those movies make us feel like that. That's why they're really cool, you know, when the character's like, okay, you know, I may or may not die, but let me burn this down, and then let's see what happens to that demon and me who comes out standing. Like, okay, all right. Like,
a good example of it is in the Raid 2, I believe it was, where you had the guy who played Crossbones in Captain America.
Oh,
he
Grillo.
was Frank Grillo. Is that his name?
Yeah.
He was the Punisher in that film. You know, I don't know if did you see it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I don't know if it's necessarily a horror film. It's more of an action film, but it started with the Purge franchise, which was definitely more horror themed. Yeah. And here he is in the streets on Purge night, going after. Purge. Yeah, I think it's probably Purge. The only good one. I mean, honestly.
Yeah, it's my favorite Purge, the only one, because of Frank Grillo for sure.
Oh yeah.
Wheelman, like not even like anything of a movie. It's one of those popcorn flicks. Loved it. I loved it because Frank Grillo is such a freaking badass. If you watch, if you look on, if you like Frank Grillo and you haven't checked this out, if what I'm about to say is new, check it out tonight. Or like, you know, in episodes you're eating or whatever, you don't want to get into anything heavy. Fight World. And so Fight World is very similar to those old shows like early 2000s, like Human Weapon and Fight Quest. it's Frank Grillo's version of that. So he goes to like Thailand, and he gets to learn from these older and younger Thai fighters, or he'll go to these different areas of Mexico, and he learns from the boxers, from the boxers in the Yucatan that are training on the freaking on the ruins and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So Fight World, check it out if you like Frank Grillo. You'll definitely like that.
I love Joe Manganiello, but I feel like Frank Grillo would have been a kick-ass Deathstroke.
Oh yeah, come
Without
on.
a doubt.
He would have been a kick-ass anything. He was a kick-ass Crossbones. So
yeah, he was.
So I'm down with that.
I need him to come. I need him to be something, dude. Something.
What if oh no, did they remake The Knight Rider? Did they make that into a movie or remake the show? If they made that in a movie, I would take him. After The Wheelman, I was like, man, I would like this dude as a freaking Knight Rider dude.
I think there was a show.
There was a show, right?
I think so. I don't know, but he would be pretty cool. Why not, right?
Why not? That's what I'm saying. Why not? Either that or remake Last Action Hero, have Frank Grillo in it. But no. For I take that back.
That would have to be The Rock, honestly.
It has to be The Rock. I was gonna say it has to be. It must be The Rock. That's true.
But honestly, I mean, why hasn't Frank Grillo been a name for that Metal Gear Solid Snake film?
Oh, I don't know, because Kurt Russell is still alive.
Wait, no, wait. What?
Because Kurt Russell can still play that. He's my pick for that, for Solid Snake. Kurt Russell, until there's another Kurt Russell.
He did escape from New York. Why not?
Yep.
Both
That's
snakes.
What I'm saying. Throw him in until there's another Kurt Russell.
Hey man, Frank Grillo could be a new Kurt Russell. I mean, come on.
Yeah, he could be. He's that. Like, I feel like that style of acting. He could do it.
He's a modern day Charles Bronson. Yeah.
Oh, dude, for sure. I would say he's more of a modern day Charles Bronson than a modern day.
Kurt Russell for sure.
Kurt Russell for sure. Yeah, for sure.
Let me ask you the movie question.
Do it.
About Fright Night. Even though I love the tangents. What other monster could work well for this premise, which is the monster that lives next door in the suburbs?
What monster could do well for the monster that lives next door?
Yeah,
Ooh.
in the suburbs.
Okay. So this is gonna be funny. But for me, when you're asking about suburbs and things like that, instantly what I think is Erie, Indiana, Goosebumps, and yes, Saturday morning cartoons, but that's where you always had like some monster in the burbs, like down the street across your dad's, your friend's dad is the monster or something like that. And so I remember this one episode being so good that I really liked, and it was a 2-part episode about the dad being a scientist, and he's actually like turning himself into a plant, or his kids are plants or something, and they're trying to fight him, but they don't realize that they're his creations from the very beginning. You know what I mean? And then at the end they like fight him and they win, but then it's also revealed that they are one of his creations too, or something. I don't know. I like that stuff like that. That's
like the mad scientist.
Yeah, some mad scientist, something like that. You know what else did well? Not a monster, but The Gift, or a stalker. Stalkers are
okay.
Something creepy like that.
Some Lovely Bones type shit.
Yeah, something like that. But that's my pick. Probably a mad scientist, I think, would be cool.
It might not seem practical what I'm about to say.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like the whole idea of the suburb, that setting specifically, is you want a monster that is completely opposite, so you can see how they adapt. And I would love it if we got something like the creature from the Black Lagoon, in the suburbs. See how that works. Maybe they go to like the park where there's like a pool or something, and then they take it over. That type of crap turns the suburbs into the swamps, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
That I feel like that would be really cool and weird.
But that's what I'm saying. That's actually when you asked the question, the first thing that popped up was like an animal type, like a plant type or a swamp type creature, in a suburb area, next door, nobody knows. I don't know. It's like a Swamp Thing type thing. You know what I mean?
Swamp Thing. I need Swamp Thing.
Hey, let's go.
I need him.
Yeah.
Okay.
The GOAT Podcast is proof you don't have to look any further for movie news, reviews, trailer reactions, or special discussions. Subscribe, get notified about what's going on, and I promise you'll be entertained by our daily content on YouTube. If you want more, we're on Twitter at GOAT Film Podcast, Instagram The GOAT Podcast, and the GOAT Movie Group on Facebook. Get connected with us, see what's happening, and make sure to love it while you're doing so.